Many years later, the narrator returns to Regensburg, Germany, a city filled with childhood memories. Despite having relocated to Canada, Regensburg feels like home because of the narrator's parents who still reside there. The narrator reflects on their father's past experiences during World War II, particularly his service in the military, which resulted in capture and subsequent imprisonment as a POW in Canada. Theo Melzer, the father, was conscripted into service during the war and became part of the Afrika Korps in North Africa. After being captured by British forces, he was designated prisoner of war number 260 to 267, which profoundly influenced his views on war and humanity. The narrator notes the challenges faced by Britain in managing a large number of prisoners, which led to the transportation of over 38,000 German soldiers to Canadian camps, conditions that, while restrictive, adhered to the Geneva Convention and provided relative comfort compared to other POW experiences. Theo often shared insights on the war from multiple perspectives, including that of his younger brother, Rolf, who fought on the Eastern Front and was captured by Soviet forces. Rolf's experiences starkly contrasted with Theo's. He endured dire conditions in Soviet camps fraught with extreme shortages, disease, and a daily struggle for survival, losing many fellow prisoners to starvation and neglect. The mortality rate among German soldiers captured by the Soviets was devastating, with approximately 1.1 million dying in captivity. Theo's memories from Canadian camps included far fewer deaths, mainly due to accidents or illness rather than systemic disregard for life. Years later, the narrator discovers a collection of 124 letters Theo wrote during his imprisonment in Canada, meticulously preserved and revealing his emotional struggles. In one letter dated August 15, 1943, Theo expresses optimism and reassures his family of his hope for reunion, despite the hardships of his situation. His letters also reflect a sense of humanity in his captors and a resilience that underscored his survival experience, contrasting sharply with the despair faced by Rolf. These narratives not only document the lived realities of the war but also illustrate the varying experiences of soldiers based on their captors, emphasizing the stark differences in POW treatment between Western and Eastern forces during the war. The narrative recounts the experiences of former German soldiers who were captured during World War II and later settled in Canada, highlighting their journeys from captivity to becoming grateful citizens of their adopted country. Following their reflections on the war and their treatment while imprisoned, the focus shifts to a broader historical context of prisoner of war camps in Canada, particularly the one near Lethbridge, which held significance during the conflict yet has become largely forgotten over time. Among those who immigrated was Hans Pfeffel, who reminisces about his youth in Nazi Germany, including his involuntary participation in the Hitler Youth, which indoctrinated youth to military life through activities that emphasized discipline and loyalty to the regime. Drafted at age 20, Hans served with the Afrika Korps in North Africa, where the harsh environment and military challenges eroded the initial confidence of German forces facing Allied attacks, particularly at the Battle of El Alamein. The narrative shifts to the experiences of Johannes Lieberwood, who, during summers at his lakeside cabin in Ontario, reflects on his capture at a logging camp, emphasizing the contrast between his youthful aspirations for adventure in North Africa and the brutal realities of war that ultimately led to his confinement. Similarly, Eric Hayes's harrowing tale includes near drowning during an enemy torpedo attack on his transport ship, which underscores the unpredictability and chaos of warfare. Siegfried Osterwolde offers another viewpoint, explaining how the war disrupted his academic ambitions. Initially enlisted for a short-term commitment, his life was altered irrevocably by the outbreak of war, reflecting the lost opportunities many faced amid the conflict. Overall, these personal recollections serve to illustrate the transformative impacts of war, where former enemies, once prisoners, navigated the path from conflict to contributing members of Canadian society, all while drawing attention to the forgotten history of POW camps in Canada and the profound effects of war on individual lives and collective memory. Years later, Siegfried reflected on his youthful naivety as a soldier, believing he was invulnerable despite the chaos of war around him. The unexpected moment of his capture by British soldiers shattered this illusion, leaving him filled with fears about survival, food, and the uncertainty of his future. His journey as a prisoner of war began in Egypt and carried him across continents to Canada, where he and other captured soldiers were treated to unexpected comforts after enduring harsh conditions at sea. On arrival, many were greeted with hot meals and coffee, contrasting sharply with their previous experiences, instilling a sense of surrealism that masked the underlying realities of military life. The Canadian POW camps, often strategically located in remote areas, began by housing prisoners in existing structures before transitioning to purpose-built facilities. Initially, the camps offered better conditions than many expected, but prisoners quickly realized they were still confined communities, surrounded by barbed wire and strict regulations. The social dynamics within the camps retained military hierarchies, with career officers often viewing themselves as superior to conscripts. Amidst the adversity, creativity flourished. Prisoners painted, wrote, and crafted as a means of coping and maintaining connections to their homeland. One notable example included a watercolor depicting Rothenburg, embodying the longing for home. Canadian guards, largely veterans from the First World War, were tasked with overseeing these prisoners, ensuring camp rules were followed, while also interrogating new arrivals to assess their backgrounds and potential political beliefs. This complex existence combined moments of surprising comfort with stark reminders of the prisoners' realities, influenced by discipline, hierarchy, and the remnants of ideological divisions. The interviews conducted by camp administrators were aimed at understanding the diverse political attitudes among the prisoner population concerning Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. To manage order and reduce conflicts, prisoners were categorized into three groups based on their political allegiances. Blacks were staunch National Socialists, Greys were less fervent supporters, and Whites were largely opposed to Nazi ideology. Though this classification intended to diminish tensions, political discord continued to permeate life in the camps. Communication with family emerged as a critical emotional support for the prisoners. For instance, Theo Melzer, due to his military rank, could send limited letters home, 2 letters of 24 lines and 4 postcards of 7 lines each monthly, all scrutinized by censors. This necessitated careful wording to assure relatives of their well-being without divulging sensitive military information. As the war progressed, Canada expanded its prisoner of war facilities significantly, constructing extensive camps in Lethbridge, Alberta, and Medicine Hat, each designed to accommodate over 12,000 prisoners. The layout mirrored Canadian military bases but was distinctly surrounded by barbed wire and patrolled by armed guards. In alignment with the Geneva Convention, which sought humane treatment of prisoners, these camps provided regular meals, healthcare, clothing, and recreational opportunities while allowing prisoners to retain military decorations and, in many cases, wear their German uniforms. When uniforms became unserviceable, they were replaced with distinct blue ones that made escape difficult due to their conspicuousness. Despite these relatively humane conditions, military regulation was stringent. Guards were vigilant, and unauthorized proximity to security fences could result in severe consequences, including shooting. While some prisoners accepted the futility of escape given the vast geography of Canada, others regarded attempts as upholding military honor. Secret plans for excavation and escape were made, but many endeavored to avoid guards until discovered upon surfacing. Official records noted over 600 escape attempts. One notable instance was at Angler, Ontario, where 28 prisoners tried to escape for Hitler's birthday but failed. Secrecy was crucial in camp life, with only a few trusted individuals aware of escape strategies or clandestine activities. A significant achievement was the creation of a secret radio receiver from a camp radio's internal components, hidden behind books in the library. This allowed prisoners to listen to broadcasts from Germany, often laden with Nazi propaganda that exaggerated successes and obscured losses. Many prisoners, despite doubts, accepted these broadcasts in hopes of German victory, while others feared voicing dissent due to intimidation from committed Nazi supporters who often dominated camp dynamics. The resulting atmosphere became oppressive, heightening tension amidst the physical constraints of imprisonment. Dr. Karl Lehmann, a philosophy and linguistics professor, openly resisted Nazi propaganda by translating and discussing articles while imprisoned in a Canadian camp. His vocal dissent made him a target among extremist prisoners who, following Nazi orders, ultimately murdered him, presenting the act as a suicide. This event shocked Canadian authorities and other prisoners, revealing how pervasive Nazi ideology remained even in captivity and signaling the fatal consequences of speaking against Hitler. The investigation into Lehmann's death progressed slowly, hampered by prisoner reluctance to testify. After the war, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police identified and convicted 4 men for murder under Canadian law, despite their belief in the righteousness of their actions as loyalty to Nazi Germany. This tragedy highlighted that, while Canada's camp conditions generally adhered to humane standards, the influence of ideological divisions and fear persisted. Despite these tensions, daily life in the camp often followed a structured routine. Prisoners managed to cope with their imprisonment through a predictable schedule, which included roll calls, assigned duties, and engaged in educational and recreational activities. The presence of a Lagerführer facilitated communication with Canadian officials, maintaining military discipline and enabling prisoners to retain a sense of dignity, which was crucial for personal identity during their captivity. Military customs and respect for ranks were upheld, contributing to order among the inmates while fostering mutual respect with camp guards. To ensure compliance with humanitarian standards, Canadian camps underwent inspections by Swiss representatives, who monitored adherence to the Geneva Convention and inspected various facilities. This impartial oversight served both humanitarian and military interests, as fair treatment of prisoners could prevent retaliatory actions against captured soldiers. Canadian authorities sought to showcase the fair treatment of German prisoners through a documentary, aiming to influence German authorities by demonstrating the humane conditions prisoners experienced. While Canadian prisoners often faced complaints regarding living conditions, many felt these hardships stemmed from Germany's deteriorating economy rather than systematic abuse. Over time, the camps fostered vibrant social and educational environments. Libraries, classrooms, and workshops flourished, allowing prisoners to engage in learning, trades, and the arts. Education remained vital for those hoping to reintegrate into civilian life, while maintaining intellectual discipline during confinement. Physical activities, including sports, were also fundamental in everyday camp life. Organizing matches and competitions helped to relieve boredom and anxiety among prisoners. Furthermore, religious activities enriched the prisoners' lives, as chaplains provided spiritual support and conducted services, making events like Christmas memorable amidst their captivity. These elements contributed to building a sense of community, culture, and creativity that thrived despite the constraints of imprisonment. The emotional core of camp life for prisoners during the Second World War was their correspondence with family. Letters from home, filled with news about loved ones, provided a vital connection to life outside prison. In contrast, outgoing letters were meticulously composed, constrained by censorship aimed at comforting relatives, often to mitigate anxiety. As the war progressed, communication faced severe challenges, with destroyed transport networks and families fleeing from advancing armies causing delays that sometimes stretched for weeks or months. For many prisoners, this lack of news became a more significant emotional burden than physical confinement, as uncertainty prevailed over their families' fates. As reports indicated Germany's declining military situation, conversations in the camps shifted from hopes of victory to concerns about the future. The realization of inevitable defeat fostered reflections on what awaited them post-war, including fears of a Soviet occupation and the devastation in their home cities. Some prisoners began to view Canada not merely as a temporary prison, but rather as a place of peace, stability, and opportunity, leading them to envision a future there as immigrants rather than former captives. The environment in Canadian POW camps transformed, especially as the war neared its end. Evidence of Germany's deteriorating military standing fueled mixed emotions. While the prospect of peace brought relief, apprehensions about confronting personal loss and the uncertain fate of families loomed large. The growing understanding of their government's failures led many prisoners to question previously held beliefs shaped by years of Nazi propaganda. Interactions with Canadian guards also evolved as respect developed from shared experiences, reshaping relationships that transcended the enemy lines drawn by barbed wire. By 1945, Germany's surrender marked the war's conclusion in Europe, yet many prisoners remained in Canadian camps for logistical arrangements regarding repatriation. During this transitional phase, they engaged in various activities, albeit with uncertainty about their future. For those eventually repatriated, the reality in post-war Germany was grim, characterized by ruins, destruction, and severe shortages. The devastation contrasted sharply with their experiences in Canada, where they had enjoyed peace, respect, and personal development. As a result, many former prisoners chose to return to Canada voluntarily, transitioning from captives to contributing citizens. Over the years, a significant number successfully emigrated, integrating into Canadian society as farmers, business owners, and skilled professionals, ultimately transforming their identities and leaving an enduring legacy of reconciliation stemming from wartime conflict. The narrative of German prisoners of war in Canada unfolds through the experiences of individuals like Hans Pfeffel, Johannes Lieberwood, Eric Hayes, and Siegfried Osterwald, who, despite the trauma of combat and captivity, embraced reconciliation. These men opted to shape their futures positively, rather than let their wartime experiences define them. Theo Melzer's letters, written from Lethbridge Camp, serve as poignant reminders of their journey, reflecting the young soldiers' hopes, fears, and resilience, and revealing the human desire for peace and normalcy that transcended the battlefield. The experience of these prisoners underscores the Geneva Convention's significance and the humanitarian principles governing wartime conduct. Canada's approach to prisoner care starkly contrasted with other nations, showcasing a commitment to providing food, medical services, and education, thereby preserving dignity in captivity. This adherence to international humanitarian law emphasizes the profound impact of compassion and respect during wartime. Moreover, the narrative contrasts the peril of physical imprisonment with the dangers posed by hatred and extremist ideologies. Political divisions lingered among prisoners, leading to intimidation and violence, illustrating how deeply rooted propaganda and intolerance can shape human behavior, even in the confines of a POW camp. The history of German POWs in Canada transcends mere military accounts. It is a tale of resilience, personal growth, and hope. These soldiers, once enemies, came to appreciate their shared humanity and established bonds through their shared adversities. Many chose to rebuild their lives in Canada, the very country that held them as captives. Today, remnants of these camps have largely vanished, but the stories preserved in letters, historical records, and personal testimonies continue to narrate a significant chapter of history. They highlight the enduring power of compassion and respect for human dignity, even amidst war's darkest moments. Ultimately, the legacy of these individuals underscores the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative nature of forgiveness, perseverance, and hope, reminding future generations that history is shaped by the actions of ordinary people who chose reconciliation over conflict.